Today is the 17th of October in 2023, day 11 of the war against Hamas. The time now is 12:25 lunchtime. Lovely summer's, autumn day, warm sun. This morning at 3:15, Channel 12 of Israel TV showed exclusive footage. Their correspondent interviewed the security head at Kibbutz Re'im, inside Kibbutz Re'im. Here is the true inside story of how 7 or 8 lone defenders of the kibbutz fought off 40 Hamas terrorists. Till now, the 11th day of the war, the media has shown you the aftermath of the massacre of 200 and I don't know how many plus partygoers at the music festival just outside of the kibbutz. Here I'm going to walk you through step by step the first horrific 7 hours of how Hamas killers penetrated the kibbutz itself. Each kibbutz has an emergency response team. This is across all of the kibbutzim. This is composed of maybe 6 to 12 members of the kibbutz, depending on the size of the kibbutz. They are the first responders at any time in an emergency. They serve as volunteers under a full-time or part-time security chief, who is also a member of the kibbutz. All are combat veterans from the IDF. But let's go back to the 1st of September this year. For some unexplained reason that I am still trying to fathom out, all firearms carried by these emergency response teams on the border with Gaza were confiscated by Israel's Home Defense Ministry. Why? How can an emergency response team respond without firearms? This is absolutely crazy, incredible. I can only assume that this policy was this. The standing army of the IDF would be called in to do the job if the kibbutz security chief reported an incident. This is madness, incredulous. As far as I am concerned, 11 days ago on the 7th of October at 6:30 in the morning, there were 3 levels of collapse of, I don't know what to call it, in the defense of Israel, the physical defense. The first line of defense, what we call FLOD, is in fact the Shin Bet, Israel's internal security force, who have people on the ground in the Gaza Strip. So it's not only the Shin Bet, which we call in Hebrew by the acronym Shabak, but also the Mossad, who have people on the ground inside of Gaza. First level of defense. The second level of defense, SLOD, if you want to call it SLOD, is in fact the IDF on the border itself, at the border fence, in the control towers, in the gun positions. And the third level of defense, which is TLOD, TLOD, third level of defense, on the Gaza border are the line of mostly kibbutzim and a few moshavim who have their own internal security teams. But all of this 10 days ago just collapsed, and the third level of defense, the internal security team of Kibbutz Re'im, was left with 7 members who had been disarmed by the home defense system. You just can't believe it. The emergency response team of Kibbutz Re'im were left to defend their kibbutz with their bare hands, or kitchen knives, who knows, clubs, God knows. Fortunately, they didn't actually surrender all of their guns. They had 7 firearms between them, personal M16 rifles and handguns. At 6:30 on Shabbat the 7th of October, 450 killers of the top elite commando unit of the Hamas, highly trained killers called the Nukhba, broke through the border fence. That fence is only 3 kilometers from Kibbutz Re'im. 1,000 Hamas terrorists followed hard on the heels of the killer members of the Nukhba. By 7 a.m. they were at the main gate of Re'im. Remember, this was a quiet Shabbat morning. All the people in the kibbutz were fast asleep. The kibbutz is not an army camp. They do not have people patrolling their perimeter fence. Closed-circuit television cameras of the kibbutz later showed the Nukhba outside the main gate. This gate is a heavy metal barrier opened laterally on a roller track. It is operated by remote control. Heavy iron, impossible to break through by ramming with a vehicle. Every member of the kibbutz has the code on his or her phone. There was no guard at the gate because this was just a normal, quiet Shabbat morning. No siren alert had sounded off. The playback video showed this Nukhba commando unit casually accessing the entry code. Others sat or stood packed in the back of pickup trucks. They were armed to the teeth in black uniforms and ceramic combat vests. They each had AK-47 assault rifles, military webbing, and 4 hand grenades. They each had a stack of ammunition, RPGs, you name it. In total, including those at various points around the perimeter fence outside, 40 Nukhba killers just casually strode or drove into the kibbutz. It was almost like they were performing a military exercise and not the real thing. No rush, just walking in, driving in, ready to kill. They went to predetermined points around the kibbutz, directly to members' houses. They opened fire. Everyone woke up immediately. Later CCTV video showed that the perimeter fence was 100% intact. No attempt had been made to breach it. They all entered through the main gate. The 7 members of the emergency response team jumped up from their beds and ran out to face them. 7 kibbutzniks in casual dress with sandals or slippers against fully armed terrorists in combat uniforms with all of the equipment. This morning I watched the head of the security team, a man in his 60s, I'm sorry I can't remember his name, explain to the interviewer how events unfolded in lightning succession. As he ran out of the house, the security team head shot 2 or 3 terrorists dead on the spot. He grabbed his phone to coordinate with the 6 other members of the team. Shouting and screaming was going on all over the kibbutz as members and children discovered that they were under attack. Pandemonium had broken out. Bullets and firing were heard everywhere. Grenades exploded with tremendous noise. RPGs were fired at front doors. People barricaded themselves inside their security rooms. Apart from the 7 members of this security team, there was also one young IDF soldier at home for the weekend. He grabbed his M16. He ran outside in his underwear. His room was near the perimeter fence. 12 terrified people were there, shaking and breathless They had fled the music festival just outside of the kibbutz. They had crawled through a concrete rain drainage pipe under the perimeter fence and had emerged up into the kibbutz. That young soldier shot dead 2 terrorists. He personally saved those 12 survivors from the music festival. The emergency security team composed of 7 older combat veteran members, and that one young soldier held 70 terrorists at bay for 6.5 hours till the IDF arrived to relieve them. The terrorists withdrew. They left tens of their dead scattered around the kibbutz. The kibbutzniks counted 7 of their own dead and many more wounded, and 7 members of the kibbutz missing. They had been taken hostage and driven back to Gaza. Those 7 members of the instant response team and 1 soldier on leave had saved their kibbutz of 350 adult members and hundreds of children. They defended their homes, their families, and their kibbutz. Now, one last point. We all recognize the fact that Israel was caught with its pants down on that morning. There was a huge screw-up. Israel's misunderstanding of Hamas's plans led to us losing 1,500 Israelis. We had another 3,000 wounded, plus 200 or even more hostages who were taken within the first 7 hours. I referred to what I called FLOD, the first line of defense. Israel's Internal Security Service, which is known abroad as the Shin Bet, better known in Israel by its acronym Shabak, Israel's equivalent of Britain's MI5. Shabak's partner on that first line of defense is what is known in Israel as Amman, the IDF's military intelligence. On day 8 of the war, Ronen Bar, the head of the Shabak, issued a statement. He said he takes full responsibility for this failure. On day 9 or 10, I can't remember, Aaron Khaliva, head of military intelligence, also admitted that he too had failed in his job. Today, day 11 of the war, Tzachi Hanegbi, a member of the government, a member of the Knesset, head of Israel's National Security Council, also announced his lack of foresight and responsibility. Now let me say that whenever any major failure happens in any organization or business, it is never caused by any one person or by any one event. It's a domino effect. It is always the result, in my experience at least, of a combination of circumstances or by a number of people. Such was the case with the economic collapse of the kibbutz movement in the 1980s. However, now is the time not for the blame game. Inquiries will occur later on when everything is over and finished. We learnt our lesson within the first 48 hours. We changed our mindset regarding Hamas, their plans, and what they are capable of. Now is the time to unroll our military plan of action. The IDF must get rid of Hamas, no matter what the price. Mistakes are made in warfare by our side and by their side. Casualties are going to pile up. The rest of the world is going to blame Israel for everything that happens, even if Hamas and Islamic Jihad are they themselves to blame. In the coming days, with the unshakable backing of Joe Biden, the IDF will ramp up its offensive with boots on the ground. That's the only way that we can get rid of Hamas. 300,000 reservists were mobilized. They will do that job together with our boys, our young men in the standing army. Israel has no choice. Hamas proved how they want to annihilate us. They are barbarians. They are monsters. It's us or them. We didn't want this war, but the IDF will win it. That's my update of the war till today. It's a bad situation, but Israel and the IDF will get through it. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe and share. More updates are on the way from the inside. Bye.